So yesterday we saw the launch of the brand new car pack, and one of the stars of this brand new car pack is obviously this right here, the McLaren 720s, built in the year of 2018. Now, I was obviously very excited for this, as you could tell from the last review we did, which was the 650s, and I loved the 650s and I'm very excited for the 720s. And well, we'll get into my opinion soon. If you want to buy this thing, obviously, if you get the car pack, you get one of the basically one version of the car for free. If you want to buy it again for whatever reason, you get it. You have to buy it for 430,000 credits. It's about 110,000 credits more than the 650s. But you get 710 horsepower, 567 foot-pounds of torque, weighing 2,950 pounds. Now, I know when it comes to McLaren naming things, the 650s didn't have 650 horsepower, but it had like 646, and you could round that up to 650. I don't exactly know why this is called a 720s when it's only got 710 horsepower. Shouldn't it be called the 710s? Doesn't sound as good, no, but really? It's just false advertising it. Okay, that's fine. For grip wise, you get 5 front tyres, which are only 10mm bigger than the tyres on the 650 at the front, and 305s on the rear, which are the exact same as the 650. You get sport tyres as standard on this car, but the 650 came with street, so there you go. It is rear-wheel drive and mid-engine, just like the 650, and it goes from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, 0 to 100 in 5.5 seconds, 60 to 0 in 126 feet, 100 to 0 in 295 feet with a top speed of 208 miles an hour. Now, because I'm an idiot, I accidentally might have forgotten to look up what engine the car comes with, so I'm just going to do that. But while I do that, what we need to talk about is how well this car drives. Because we know the McLaren 650s, I loved that thing. It drove perfectly for me, and I was very excited for this car when it came out, and when obviously I drove the 650s for the review. I was very excited for this car because I thought it was going to be so much better, and the 650, as we know, went very, very quickly around the track, did very, very well in the drifting, and very well in the drag race. But when I first drove this car, for the very, very first time, I was very, very unimpressed. I was so unbelievably shocked by how terrible the car drove. And it honestly, it took me by surprise, because the 650 was very, very good, but the 720, it's not as good in my opinion. I have just found out that the 720s has a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8. The 650 had a 3.8 twin turbo V8, so it's got 0.2 more. And with this car, I was so excited for it. It looks incredible. It sounds alright. I think the 650 does sound a bit better. This 720 just sounds like the same thing all the time. I mean, it does sound good, but it doesn't sound as good as I was expecting it to. I just want to point out, 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds is only 0.1 seconds faster than the 650s was, and 0 to 105.5 seconds is about 0.3 seconds faster than the 650 was. So it's not that much quicker for a car which had 3 years of development. It should be better. And why do I think this car drives not very well? Well, for me personally, not very well. It might be perfect for other people, but for me personally, it doesn't drive very well, because it has so little rear end traction. I'm going to this is the perfect time for me to mention, actually. You're going to see here is how easy it is to step the rear end out of the 720s. It is the easiest car, well, one of the easiest cars I've ever driven, to put just a teeny tiny, teensy bit more too much throttle in, and the rear end is trying to overtake the front, and I don't understand why. It's got 710 horsepower. That's a lot of horsepower through the rear wheels, but it's got sport tyres and 305s on the back. I've had cars in the silly car build stage which have had more power and shorter rear tyres which have more grip than the 720S does. I really don't understand how it has such little grip in the rear end. As you can see, you can just throw it about. I don't understand it. And the most annoying thing about it is the rear end has such little grip, but the front end will find grip at such random points. You'll just throw the car out. You'll see this in the drifting later on. Is the rear end and the front end, obviously when the rear end goes, the front end is trying to save it, but the front end will just randomly find grip out of nowhere and the car will just dive in any direction it wants to. I cannot understand it. The first few laps, obviously, you saw me drive it pretty well, but yeah. Anyway, we must now hand this over to our team racing driver. Some say he is the Stig, and others say he is the Stig's digital cousin. All we know is he's me in the Stig's outfit. Here we are at the quarter-mile drag race then. And we know the 720 obviously has a 2.8 seconds to 60, so it's going to be pretty quick. And it was. It goes into 6th place with a 9.710. It is 0.1 seconds down on the P1, but it is 0.3 seconds up on the 650S, so it goes right in the middle, exactly where we'd expect it to go from this car. And you know, that's incredible. It's about 0.4 up on the 911 GT2 as well, so it's doing good. Anyway, here we are at the drift section again, with me in dressing up as the Stig, because that's a new thing in Forza now. And we know that when it come to me drifting the 650S, I loved it surprising amount. It was very easy to drift. I mean, I had the same complaints I had with the front end of this car, and I'll go for it again in a minute, but yeah, that was the first car I'd driven, the 650S, which it could drift pretty damn well for the amount of power it had. And I say this every single time we come to this part of the video. I don't like driving cars with too much horsepower because I'm not very good at it. And this car has just a little bit too much horsepower. The 650 was perfectly fine. It had just the right amount of grip, just the right amount of horsepower, and you could get it drifting and pretty easily as well. But the one thing with the 650 that was really bad was the front end had so much grip, sometimes it would just kind of launch itself, and you'll see that from the 720 as well. Is you'll be drifting, the front end will find grip and it will go in the opposite direction and do a whole spin. And I could not understand why. There was nothing I could do which led this car to not do that, and it did an awful lot more than the 650. Now obviously it's got more grip in the front end, but I just couldn't stop it. I was drifting this car in like 5th because there was so much horsepower in it, and I just could not get like the 3rd gear, 4th gear drifts without it spinning out. So I was drifting it in 5th. It does have the right amount of torque, the right amount of power to be able to drift it in 5th pretty easily. But I just don't. It was one of the hardest cars, this 720, to get a decent lap out of it without crashing. I pretty much crashed on every single lap. As you can see there, it just found grip as I went to go and drift it, and it just launched me into the tyre bundle. Like, I went to counter it like you're supposed to do when you're drifting, and it just launched me into the tyre bundle that just found grip out of nowhere. Anyway, there's the lap over and done with already. And the 720 would get into a 21st position. With a 26,764. It beats the LaFerrari by 200 points, but it's down on a Porsche Cayenne Turbo by 100 points. The 650 is up in the top 10. And that goes to show something, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, we must now go to the test track. Again, with me only being dressed up in the Stig's outfit. When it comes to doing this, obviously I have the 5 practice laps in this car, and they weren't going well at all. So I was very, very worried for when I was coming to do the power lap here. But, you know, it started off pretty well. There was a little tiny bit of a slide coming out the first corner, coming into the S-curves now, and this is probably one of the places which the McLaren really did not like. It's the left to the right to the left to the right to the left to the right. And because of the corners there are, some of them are in 3rd gear, some of them are in 4th gear, some of them you have to shift down and put more power on, and it did love to spin up the wheels of the McLaren. Now, Obviously with practice you can get it tamed, and obviously it'll get quicker. And as you can see, I did have it relatively tame. Coming around the Dunlop curve also was an issue, because if you put too much steering lock in and too much power, it would like to spin its wheels up and do a drift. Into the Degners now, this is incredible like it was in 650. The brakes are phenomenal and get it stopped pretty damn late and get it turned in very easily. Coming up here, I mean that was an issue for the McLaren, because as you can see there's just smoke in its tyres, so it's just drifting and it's all off for the uphill hairpin. And you know, we only get one shot at the power lap, so there's nothing you can really do, but it does get accelerated up the uphill hairpin very, very well into the fast right-hander. And again, if you put too much steering and too much power into the fast right-hander, the McLaren will just want to get its rear end sliding out, and you can't really do anything about it, so that sucks. Coming up to Spoon, you can get very, very late on the brakes at Spoon. As you can see, there's a little tiny bit of a slide. I mean, these slides aren't really losing me any time. It's just the McLaren trying to find any grip it can. Coming on to the back straight now, as you can see, we are accelerating phenomenally quickly. These McLarens accelerate so quickly, but because of the way this car drives, it can only get to about 180 miles an hour before having to get on the brakes for 130R, because if it went too fast around here, it would just throw itself and do a spin. Coming up to the Castle Triangle now, and you can get on the brakes very, very late. As you can see, we're already over the curve by the time we start getting on the brakes, which is very late for some cars that we've taken on here. Coming around the final corner now, and it is accelerating very, very quickly out this final corner. As you can see, there's no drama, it's all under control, and we are flying towards the line and across the line for the 720S. And I'm happy to report it goes into a 5th position with 2:14.711. It beats the Koenigsegg 1-to-1 by 2/100ths of a second. It's down on the 918 by a second. That is in hypercar category right there. 5th position. The 650 is down in 9th. It's about 2 seconds quicker than the 650. I was not expecting that when I came through that lap. When I did that lap, I genuinely was like, holy crap, how? Why did that just happen? I didn't understand how it had so much speed. And I think the thing was about this car is you'll find it to have a lot of speed as soon as you learn to drive it how it wants to be driven. You've got to drive it incredibly, incredibly cautiously. You've got to drive it with the littlest amount of throttle in first, second, third and fourth gear, otherwise the rear end will want to take over the front. And I mean, it's not a bad way to drive, no, but for me personally, it's not how I like to drive, not how I like my cars to be driving. It just doesn't have enough rear end grip, and that really it took me by surprise, because the 650 did it perfectly. And I just thought, if the 720 has the same exact things the 650 has, it has the same amount of grip, obviously upper level with the power going up a level, then this car would be perfect. But it just doesn't. It has more power and not enough rear end grip. And for me, that is just it took me back completely by surprise. It's one of the things I just didn't expect. I expected it to be really good. It's got Sport 305 tyres on the back of it. I don't understand how it has such little traction. It's really, really shocking, because it should be good, it should be better than it is, but it just isn't. But some of the positives about this car, it sounds decent, it looks incredible, and the brakes are phenomenal, the acceleration is unbelievable. And overall, I do like this car. With having practiced with this car, I have come to like it. Like I said, the first ever time I drove it, I absolutely hated the way this car drove. But as I got practice and as I got better with it, I did start to enjoy it more. I did start to find more speed. For God's sake, I got it into 5th position on the board. Never did I expect it to. I expected it to go just a bit faster than 650, but it bloody got 4 places higher. It beats a Koenigsegg 1-to-1 around this track. So yeah, there we have it. Do I think you should buy the car pack for the 720S? Not specifically just for the 720S, but because of the other cars, we've got the 812 Superfast and the Vol and the other cars in there. Definitely check it out. Anyway, comment down below what you think of the 720S down below. Do you think it's a good car? Do you think I am just a bit too harsh on cars in this series, and that's why I'm not enjoying it as much? Or I don't know. Tell me what you think, because you know, I don't dislike the way this car drives, it's just not how I prefer to drive it. Anyway, that is it from me. If you've liked this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more car reviews super soon. We should have the 812 Superfast one out tomorrow, and then maybe the Vol after that, because that's a very interesting vehicle. Anyway, that's it from me, TMDT Hyper, signing out.